Stellar Blade was released to the public on Friday, and throughout the entire weekend, a ton of people have been streaming the game. And, well, in order to, make sure that my references were correct, I watched a couple of people play it, and, well, it's not my thing, okay? Like, I'm never going to play the game. The hack and slash sort of Souls, like, it's not quite as hard. It doesn't really look as punishing, mostly because you need to unlock the hard mode once you beat the entire game. But a lot of people wouldn't even go through the trouble of unlocking and playing through the hard mode because it's just kind of a bog standard game, man. And if it didn't have the protagonist that does, nobody would be making a fuss about this game, which is why the controversy around the game is a lot more interesting than the game itself. This really is, okay? Go ahead. I've said this time and time again, and I've yet to be disproven with this claim. This is simply the Hogwarts legacy of 2024. Had it not had the J.K. Rowling stuff over the top of it, nobody would even remember that game if it was just a simple third-person action shooter like it is, without all of the Hogwarts and Harry Potter iconography. Nobody would have cared about it. This would have simply have just been another passing, forgettable game, drowned out in a year of rather lopsided releases. We can just go ahead and say that. Well, there's been some exceptional all-time games that have been released so far this year. There's been some horrific disasters. But because Stellar Blade decided to lean into a certain underserved demographic, well, they're reaping the benefits of it, right? I've just also noticed everybody who was playing the game on the day of release or on the full Saturday when everybody had more free time on their hands, well, at least one of their hands, because the other one was probably busy. The Sunday viewership for a lot of those streamers precipitously dropped off because listen, man, the one thing that I took away from watching the gameplay that I did, the music is obnoxious, and you can't get that right. Yeah, man, the amount of jiggle physics and near nude costumes, it just eventually wears thin. But if you're enjoying the game, that's fine. I'm not here to take it away from you or anything like that. I'm not even reviewing the game. Haven't played it. Just know from what I've seen, I'm not a big fan of it. But when it comes to this censorship or self-imposed censorship, self-flagellation from the creators, I think this is quite a weird scenario we're finding ourselves in, and especially when it comes from the game's journalist's perspective. Well, they're just taking every opportunity that they can to hate their most derided demographic, and that would be gamers, by categorizing it as over 30,000 horny players vote to free Stellar Blade from censorship. Oh yes, the only reason that gamers care about companies and activists trying to fundamentally change their games is just because they're a bunch of horny basement dwellers. No, this is about censorship, and it's also about people trying to weaponize censorship in order to keep the conversation going. So that's what I find a little bit more interesting. But no. These level 1 brainlets can only simply see, oh, look at that, gamers are being pathetic. They just want to see boobs. They just want to stare at the women on the screen. They just want to objectify women, which is kind of interesting when you compare and contrast it with one of their chosen games, because it's created by the people that they ideologically align with, and that would be Hades. I'm not entirely sure what the game Hades is all about. I haven't looked into the background of it. All I know is that there's a main character, Aphrodite. It has something to do with the Greek gods, obviously, hence the name. But yeah, that's what she looks like in the game. But the games journalists are praising that to hell and back, not calling for that censorship, but just simply trying to impose their will on this game. I find that interesting, right? Okay. So yeah, this is obviously, okay, you could take a look at that guy's profile picture. He looks like somebody who would go ahead and just drink from the leftist trough, thinking that they can go ahead and friendship their way into some gash. It's never going to happen, bro. You can't escape Stellar Blade on social media right now, whether you're playing Shift Up's PS5 exclusive or not. You've likely seen various aspects of Eve's visage on your feed. There's no hiding that players are smitten with the game's lead character. Yeah, some people like the gameplay, but hey man, whatever. Everybody's entitled to their own opinions. And even more so with the variety of outfits that she can wear. To liberate Eve's more revealing outfits, players are voting to free Stellar Blade from censorship. Yeah, this is kind of what I find interesting, because as far as I know and as far as I've seen, you can artificially, I guess it's not really artificially, because one of the game's mechanics is the less clothing that you are wearing, the fewer armor upgrades you're allowed to access. So it's funny, right? You're censoring swimsuits that you can only affix to yourself after you've beat the game, but you aren't talking about the actual skin suit that Eve wears when she doesn't have any additional armor. It's almost like games journalists don't play the games that they tend to be experts of. A new PS5 game from Shift Up is barely a week old. No, it's just a couple of days old, bro. And controversy is already brewing among Stellar Blade's player base over a change.org petition. Yeah, 35,000, signatures. I'm not too sure when this article was released, 9 hours ago. So yeah, it'll probably end up eclipsing that because a lot of people are championing it. Once again, shout out to Grums, who has done a lot of good compiling on the subject, and yeah, just showing the different costumes the way that they are, because you have the on-disc costumes. That's very difficult to say, especially in the context of this video, but yeah, okay. There might be a couple of cosmetic alterations, but most of those seem to be on the up and up, as opposed to what we have here, which is obvious. There's obvious changes, right? With this cybernetic bondage, it's like, come on, man, you know exactly what you're going to be getting with that one, where there appears to be, a bra underneath that one? Okay, kind of weird, because everybody is more or less simping not so much on what's on the front, as opposed to what's jiggling vociferously during gameplay on the back. But okay, yeah, but the Holiday Rabbit one, that was just kind of weird, because it's very high cut on the hip. Obviously, you can tell with the uncensored one, and then with the censored one, well, okay, she covers up her cleavage. What's with this weird stuff? She's still in a one piece. Okay, whatever. And then also adds additional mesh, because you can kind of see, and I can see it on my monitor. You might have to click through in the link in the description if you want something that looks where you can get a more detailed look. It kind of looks like there might be mesh for dropping the hip line a little bit. Like, why go through all that trouble? Okay, there's a lot of info out there, and it can't be confirmed because we do not see it on the physical unpatched disc. Here's what he's found so far. But yeah, this guy ends up bringing up a good point. What about the blood gore? Yeah, they don't actually care about that. Hell, they don't even care about consistency. We're talking about games journalists here for a second. The second worst class of journalists, okay? Where did all this stuff come from, and why am I leading to the conclusion that this is all a way to market and take advantage of an outrage cycle? Well, because the game's creator, the director rather, he's gone along with all of this stuff. Like, I'm sensing a marketing ploy. Okay, very much so. Stellar Blade director, again, reiterates the changes were intentional, talking about the censorship of the swimsuits. This was posted yesterday during many launch day interviews. In the same interview, he also talks about how they will be responsive to with new content in the future, according to what players want. I'm sure what players want very much alludes to the people playing the game, as opposed to the commentary class that called for all of these changes. Let's see how the petition and other efforts go over the weekend and see what happens next. Yeah, because I think this week is going to be very telling as to what ultimately ends up happening. So yeah, just a little snippet from the interview. Erotic doesn't always mean good. In some situations, there are things that need to be modified to make it work. Take a look at those pictures. Okay, take a look at these. What makes these any different from the original intention, and then compare and contrast that to the flesh-toned, practically nude suit? Like, what are we doing here? And there are some things that are less arousing and more arousing as a result. These are all intended outcomes. The patch is the final product we want to show you. Ooh, I think that's a very interesting line that's right there, especially coupled with this development that PlayStation is offering refunds for Stellar Blade if you claim false advertising as a reason. Now, of course, they link out to Reddit post, and you can go ahead and take this with a grain of salt. There could be a multitude of reasons behind somebody requesting and then also receiving a refund for a game. And PlayStation customer service, I've had to deal with them a couple of times. Pretty decent, actually. Microsoft's has been abysmal, and I don't think that I've had to contact Nintendo, touch wood, for anything really. Ubisoft I would put probably at the bottom. EA was surprisingly good. Steam's excellent. But yeah, PlayStation's not all that bad. But yeah, even the post here doesn't cite any specific reason, but I'm sure the Reddit posts can go ahead and claim one thing or another. But I think Sony, because there's a lot of people thinking that Sony's trying to kneecap this game, but at the same time knowing that they aren't releasing any big budget AAA games, they're going to need all the help that they can get this year. But also, maybe they're doing this, and this is again just some 4D chess type shit. Or, okay, Sony can play the bad guy. We'll go ahead, we'll be the bad guy in this situation. We will call for the censorship on this and shift up. You guys just go ahead, stiff upper lip, just try to make the best of a bad situation. Then we're just gonna have this organic groundswell where people are gonna, I don't know, create petitions and all that stuff in order to try to get the swimsuits for their characters, even though there's far more revealing swimsuits that are out there for the characters. But it's all just so goddamn tiresome, especially when it's in service of a mid goddamn game. I don't know, man. Play the game if you want. Okay, Shift Up created a game that you're so inclined to play. By all means, just don't be surprised if you end up getting taken for a ride. And that down the line, once all the spotlight comes off this game, they start removing more and more swimsuits and start offering Eve a burqa option. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.